You see it before you've decided anything. A dog on the other end of a leash coming up the sidewalk, and without a single thought, your whole body changes course. Your voice climbs up an octave. Your hand floats out in front of you on its own. You are now walking toward a mouthful of teeth attached to an animal you have never met, making a sound no adult makes at another adult, completely certain this is a wonderful idea. You didn't decide to do that, something much older than you did. We treat this as the most normal thing in the world. You pet the dog, you coo at the baby seal on your screen. You stop the car for a duck. You have at some point felt real tenderness toward an animal that would happily eat you if the sizes were reversed. And you think nothing of it because everyone around you does the same. But step back and look at it cold, and it's genuinely strange. No other animal on Earth does this the way we do. Lions don't keep gazelles because they're cute. Chimpanzees don't adopt baby birds and raise them for fun. We are the one species that looks at a completely different animal and thinks, I would like to hold that, and protect it and give it a name. Wanting to pet everything looks sweet, but it's actually one of the strangest things your brain does, and it's running a program far more powerful than you realize. Because here's what's really happening when you reach for that dog. That reach just triggered the single most powerful program your brain owns, the one built to make you care for a helpless human baby. That program is the reason our species exists at all. Human infants are born useless, unable to walk, feed themselves, or do anything but scream, and they stay that way for years. Keeping one alive takes a caregiving drive so strong it overrides sleep, hunger, and self-interest. That drive is the engine of the entire species. And when you melt at a puppy, that engine has just fired, at full power, for an animal that isn't yours and isn't even human. The question is why? Why does the most important instinct you own go off for a golden retriever? The answer starts with a face. In 1943, a scientist named Konrad Lorenz noticed that all the things we find unbearably cute share the same handful of features: a big round head, large eyes set low on the face, chubby cheeks, a small nose and chin, short, stubby limbs. He called it the baby schema, and his point was simple. Those aren't just features babies happen to have. They're a trigger. Your brain is wired to see that exact set of proportions and answer automatically with a wave of tenderness and the urge to protect. You don't decide it. It fires like a reflex, and your brain's reward system, the same circuitry that answers to food and other deep rewards, lights up when it does. Sometimes it fires so hard it overflows into something researchers actually have a name for: cute aggression, that strange urge to squeeze or clench or gently bite something unbearably adorable. You don't really want to hurt it. Your caregiving system has just been flooded so completely that your brain throws in a jolt of the opposite feeling to keep you from short-circuiting. And here's the catch that changes everything. Your brain never checks what species the face belongs to. It just checks the proportions. Big eyes, round head, tiny nose, and the caregiving switch flips, whether it's a human infant, a kitten, a baby seal, or a cartoon character drawn on purpose to hit those exact numbers. It's why an otherwise functional adult will lose the ability to form full sentences the second a corgi walks into the room. What captured you was the geometry of that face, not the animal behind it. But it gets stranger, because the animals we live with didn't just happen to have those faces. In a way, we built them. Starting in 1959, a Soviet scientist named Dmitry Belyaev ran one of the most revealing experiments in the history of biology. He took silver foxes, wild and snappy, and bred them for one single trait: tameness, nothing else, just letting a human come near without panicking. He picked the calmest few each generation and bred them, then did it again and again, and something nobody predicted happened to their bodies. The foxes started growing floppy ears, curling tails, patches of white fur, rounder faces, and shorter snouts. They began to look, in a word, cuter, more like puppies, even as adults. Selecting for a friendly mind had quietly dragged the whole body toward a baby-like face. Scientists call the full package domestication syndrome, and you can find it in almost every animal we've tamed. So the dog curled up looking impossibly sweet at your feet didn't get that face by chance. For thousands of years, without ever meaning to, we kept and bred the ones that looked the most like our own babies, selecting for the exact face that hijacks our own caregiving instinct. Then there's what passes between you and that animal in real time. In 2015, a team of Japanese researchers led by Miho Nagasawa published a study in the journal Science that found something quietly astonishing. When a dog and its owner simply look into each other's eyes, both of them get a spike in oxytocin, the same bonding hormone that floods a mother and her newborn when they gaze at each other. The longer they hold the gaze, the bigger the spike in both of them. It becomes a loop. The dog looks at you, your oxytocin rises, you feel warm and attentive, so you look back and touch it, which lifts the dog's oxytocin so it looks at you more, around and around. And here's the detail that gives the whole thing away. When they ran the same experiment with wolves, it didn't happen. Wolves don't do this. Dogs evolved it over domestication aimed specifically at us. In a second experiment, the team gave dogs a dose of oxytocin directly, and the dogs gazed at their owners more, which lifted the owner's oxytocin in turn. The loop doesn't just exist, it feeds itself. One of the researchers summed the whole thing up perfectly. Dogs hijacked the human bonding pathway. So when you pet your dog and it gazes up at you, you're not just being kind to an animal, you are running, hormone for hormone, the exact program of a parent holding a child. Now here's where the story takes a turn nobody expects, because we always tell it as a story about us, humans, the clever species, choosing to tame the animals. But look closely at what actually happened, and it runs almost the other way around. The animals that could trip our caregiving instinct, the ones with the rounder faces, the softer eyes, the willingness to hold our gaze, were the ones we fed, sheltered, protected, and let breed. We were the environment they adapted to. Natural selection for them was run by human emotion. They never forced their way into our lives. They evolved the exact keys to our hearts, and we opened the door every single time. Every cat that ever purred its way onto a lap, every dog that learned to tilt its head just so, was running a strategy tens of thousands of years in the making, aimed at the one soft spot our species can't defend. In a real sense, they domesticated us just as much as we ever domesticated them. And the reason it worked at all comes back to the thing we started with. Our real superpower was never strength or even intelligence, but something quieter, the will to care for something helpless, for years, at enormous cost, expecting nothing in return. That is what raises a human child. Animals simply found the edge of that instinct and slipped inside it. Petting everything is the softest, most powerful thing about us, turned outward at the whole living world. So here's the full picture. You reach for the dog before you decide to, because your brain is running a caregiving program built for helpless babies. That program fires for a face, not a species. Big eyes, round head, small nose. The animals we live with evolved straight into those faces, because we bred the sweetest looking ones for thousands of years without ever knowing it. And when they meet our eyes, they trip the same bonding hormone as our own children. Step by step, an entire other species learned to walk through the one door our species can never quite keep shut. 14,000 years ago, in what is now Germany, a puppy got sick. It was only about 4 months old, and it had distemper, a disease that kills a dog within weeks. This puppy was no use to anyone. It couldn't hunt, couldn't guard, couldn't work. By every cold rule of survival, it should have been left behind. Instead, someone kept it warm, cleaned it, gave it water by hand through bout after bout of illness. It clung on far longer than it ever could have alone, and it was barely 6 months old when it finally died. They buried it gently beside a man and a woman, and covered all three in red ochre, the way you bury someone you love. That grave is the oldest proof we have that a human being loved an animal for no reason at all except that they loved it. So the next time your hand drifts out toward some dog you've never met, and your voice does that thing, understand what you're feeling. It's not silly. It's at least 14,000 years old, and it might be the best thing we ever learned to do. If you want to dig into any of the research behind this, it's all linked down in the description. See you soon.